Deep within the suffocating shadows of Germany's Black Forest, secrets do not stay buried forever. They breathe. They linger in the damp air, weaving through the ancient trees, waiting for the perfect moment to resurface. And they wait for someone curious enough, someone inherently foolish enough, to disturb their unnatural rest and wake them from an eternal, silent slumber. Our story begins in a forgotten, rain-slicked alleyway of Prague. Inside a centuries-old antique shop, the air is thick with the scent of decaying paper, and time itself seems to have surrendered, standing completely still. Thomas, a master clock restorer obsessed with unraveling forgotten histories, found it hidden beneath a rotting velvet cloth, an 18th-century cuckoo clock masterfully carved from dark, weeping oak. Its craftsmanship was beautifully yet masterfully unsettling. The figures of angels were frozen in a state of eternal, agonizing grief, and faint, deep stains had long since dried into the porous grain of the old wood. The old shopkeeper smiled a crooked, silent smile as Thomas handed over the money. It was a grin that carried a dark, unspoken warning, one that Thomas, blinded by his excitement, simply chose to ignore. Brought back to his modern, minimalist apartment, the ancient relic was hung upon the plain white wall. It stood as a stark, ominous intrusion of the past into a comfortable, contemporary world. Driven by professional curiosity and a desire to understand its build, Thomas did the unthinkable. He opened the fragile wooden casing and completely removed every single gear, spring, and pendulum. The clock was entirely gutted. Empty. Nothing but a hollow, dead wooden shell remained mounted on his wall. It was a lifeless box, incapable of function. But then, in the dead silence of the midnight apartment, the ticking began. A heavy, unnatural, metallic rhythm began to echo through the empty rooms. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Deeply disturbed by the impossible sound, Thomas walked over and firmly grabbed the wooden hands, forcing them to a brutal, physical halt. Instantly, a freezing, unnatural chill swept through the apartment. The temperature crashed, and thick, jagged frost webbed across the glass window panes in a matter of seconds. On the wall nearby, his digital thermometer violently glitched, the LED screen flashing rapidly before settling on a freezing -10 degrees Celsius. The exact moment Thomas pulled his numbed hand away from the wood, the biting air warmed back up, and the empty clock seamlessly resumed its impossible, haunting rhythm. Terrified, looking for a logical voice of reason to shatter his growing panic, Thomas called the only person who could tether his mind to reality, his research colleague, Emma. Emma arrived shortly after, carrying heavy bags of professional cameras and thermal scanning gear, her face wearing an expression of deep, analytical skepticism regarding his wild claims. Together, they sat in the dim, flickering light of the living room, staring intently at the empty wooden box that defied physics and stubbornly refused to remain silent. Midnight came and went with nothing but the steady, unchanging ticking. But the real nightmare of the Black Forest was patiently waiting for a much darker hour. Then, the digital clock on the desk shifted numbers. 3:14 a.m., the dreaded witching hour, the exact moment where the veil between the living and the dead grows dangerously thin. The ancient cuckoo clock violently shuddered against the solid wall, vibrating so hard the plaster began to crack, before its small, carved wooden door burst open with a loud, echoing snap. Out stepped a mechanical bird, but it was no ordinary cuckoo. It was a blind, eyeless vulture made of rotting wood, its beak stained, projecting an aura of pure malice. As the creature screeched, dead Latin words, cold, guttural, and hollow, seemed to materialize in the air, echoing through the very room and vibrating in the chests of Thomas and Emma. Emma gasped for air, the room spinning around her as her wide eyes reflected a massive, distorted shadow stretching and twisting across the wall behind them, though nothing stood in front of the light. Thomas fell heavily to his knees, clutching his head in absolute agony as a blinding, invisible pressure pierced directly into his skull, overriding his senses. By morning, all skepticism was dead, replaced by a desperate need for answers. They loaded the relic into the car and took it straight to a high-tech physics laboratory in Western Germany. Top research scientists, eager to debunk a hoax, subjected the strange artifact to advanced 3D laser scanning, ultrasonic testing, and material density diagnostics. The imaging results made absolutely no scientific sense. The high-resolution monitors showed nothing but solid, ordinary 18th century oak. No hidden wires, no micro-batteries, no magnetic trickery, nothing. Perplexed and frustrated, acoustic engineers isolated the clock, surrounding it with ultra-sensitive gold-plated microphones and complex frequency analyzers. Suddenly, the digital screen spiked violently into the red. The inert clock was emitting a massive, localized wave of infrasound, a frequency far below human hearing, but utterly devastating to human psychology. Without warning, the lead technician monitoring the sound waves collapsed heavily to the floor, blood pouring from his nose as his central nervous system completely misfired under the pressure. Total panic erupted inside the facility. Alarms began to blare, and the pristine, orderly laboratory instantly transformed into a chaotic emergency zone. The facility director, realizing they were dealing with something dangerously anomalous, ordered an immediate quarantine, locking the ancient artifact behind reinforced steel containment doors. Desperate for historical context that science couldn't provide, Emma fled the facility, driving through the rain to the grand archives of Munich's oldest, most restrictive library. There, hidden deep within a vault away from public view, her trembling hands uncovered a fragile, decaying handwritten journal dating back to the winter of 1742. A disturbing, faded ink illustration inside the pages revealed a horrific truth: a local Black Forest clockmaker kneeling in absolute submission before a dark, formless demonic entity. The Latin translation of the text beside the drawing read clearly, "A soul for perfect time. A daughter's life for a mechanism that never dies." Utterly ignorant of the dark history discovered in the archives, the remaining scientists in the lab set up a final, definitive test, placing 3 independent, hyper-precise atomic clocks around the relic. High-speed phantom cameras, capable of capturing millions of frames per second, were locked onto the face of the artifact to record any microscopic mechanical movement. Once again, the laboratory time approached 3:14 a.m. The air inside the sealed concrete room grew impossibly heavy, freezing instantly and suffocating the lungs of those inside. Then, the wooden hands didn't just tick, they began spinning backward at an impossible, blurred velocity, defying all laws of inertia and kinetic energy. Instantly, all 3 multi-million-dollar atomic clocks glitched violently, their digital screens shattering into lines of unreadable, corrupted static code. Overhead, the heavy fluorescent laboratory lights flickered erratically, buzzing with a deafening frequency before exploding one by one into violent showers of sparks. A massive electromagnetic anomaly tore through the enclosed space. Metal screws, pins, and heavy steel tools lifted off the test benches, floating suspended in midair. Reality itself began to warp. The scientists watched in absolute horror as their own limbs moved in distorted, delayed visual streaks, as if time was actively tearing at the seams. The ticking sound grew deafening, changing from a dry, mechanical wooden click to the heavy, echoing, wet beat of a massive human heart. Thump, thump, thump. Miles away in the dark library archives, Emma screamed into her phone, tears streaming down her face as she begged Thomas to leave the laboratory immediately. But it was already far too late. Inside the observation room, Thomas stood completely hypnotized, his eyes pitch black, empty, and entirely vacant of human consciousness. Like a mindless puppet controlled by invisible, heavy strings, he walked slowly and smoothly toward the reality-bending artifact, ignoring the shouts of the staff. He slowly raised his pale, shaking hand, reaching out directly for the violently spinning wooden hands of the ancient clock. As his fingers neared the wood, the dried stains on the oak face began to liquefy, turning into fresh, flowing, warm human blood that dripped onto the laboratory floor. The main electrical grids short-circuited in a massive, blinding blast of blue electricity, instantly plunging the entire secure facility into absolute, terrifying darkness. In the dead, suffocating silence of the pitch-black room, the chilling, playful laughter of a little girl echoed distinctly from the corner, moving through the dark. The emergency crimson backup lights flashed on. Standing directly behind Thomas was a pale, tall, long-haired entity, its cold, dead hands firmly grasping his shoulders. The red light flashed a second time. The entity vanished into nothingness, leaving Thomas standing entirely alone in the pulsing red glow, his body frozen in place. When the sun finally rose over Germany, the smoking, ruined remains of the laboratory offered no scientific answers. The equipment was melted, and the data logs were entirely erased. Thomas survived the horrific events of that night, but his mind did not return. He was quietly moved to a high-security psychiatric ward, sitting motionless, staring blankly into the void. Examining doctors found something that chilled them to the bone. His pupils were permanently dilated and deformed into the precise shape of a clock's gear, completely unresponsive to light. The official scientific report on the incident was aggressively rewritten by authorities, entirely altered to hide the supernatural truth from the public eye. The heavy case folder was stamped classified in bold red ink, buried deep within the most secure, unreachable government archives. Yet, one anonymous researcher managed to leak a final, chilling audio recording before disappearing. Science cannot explain it, because it isn't a machine. It's a living consciousness. The Black Forest clock itself was sealed inside a reinforced titanium safe, locked away in an isolated underground vault where no living soul could ever hear it. Days later, a grieving and exhausted Emma returned to Thomas's empty, quiet apartment to pack away his remaining personal things and close his lease. While clearing out the space beneath his dust-covered bed, her hand brushed against something cold and metallic, a heavy, rusted iron lockbox hidden out of sight. Forcing the ancient lock open, she found a collection of old documents, anchored by a fragile piece of parchment, Thomas's official genealogical family tree. Tracing the bloodline names back to the mid-18th century, Emma's breath caught in her throat. Thomas wasn't a random buyer in an antique shop. He was the direct, living descendant of the cursed clockmaker himself. She dropped the paper in absolute, paralyzed horror as the truth hit her. The clock hadn't chosen him by accident. It had spent centuries waiting, and had simply called its own bloodline home. Suddenly, inside the empty room, where no clock remained on the walls, a loud, rhythmic, heavy cuckoo echoed clearly from deep within the solid brick walls. Some mysteries are simply not meant to be solved by human science or quantified by modern tools, because some entities do not belong to our laws of physics. Deep beneath the earth, inside the pitch-black, silent titanium safe, the wooden hands of the artifact continue to spin relentlessly backward, which leaves us with one final, terrifying question to ponder. Is time truly moving forward, or are we all just ticking backward into their hands? Thank you for watching this file from the Vault of Mysteries. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you dare to see what dark truths we unlock next. No voiceover. Allow the video to end with the heavy, echoing sound of a final clock chime cutting sharply to dead silence.